I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the right and just how, I don't know, gullible, thirsty they are to welcome in grifters who are going to spill the tea or whatever. Like, oh, I flipped my switch. Oh, the Democrats have been terrible the whole entire time. And platforming folks, and when it just seems obvious that it's a grift. And I'd mentioned the other day there was someone with a pretty, substantial account on X who was outed as a total fraud, and it's just I just have questions about why people want to walk through these doors with like open eyes into these particular traps that might get them some clicks here or there, but maybe they're doing it for the clicks, but they must know in their hearts that it's nonsense, and they're probably going to do a big disservice to their audience, because their audience will be introduced to certain people who will take advantage of their kindness, I guess, in their belief to kind of accept what they might be saying, and then it all turns out to be nonsense or whatever. They're just doing it for clout and clicks and whatnot. So Lindy Li, for example, she was a Democrat strategist and fundraiser who literally like flipped right after the election. Literally just flipped right after the election. And she's like, oh, the Democrats are trash. They've been trash. And they raised so much money. They did this, they did that. And is going on all the right-wing stuff when literally right before the election, literally was totally team Democrat. And I don't have a problem with people switching sides, but I have to ask the question, why are you switching sides? And we talked a little bit yesterday about gatekeeping and conservatism, and so I guess this is an extension of that. I also heard some stuff about the Trump White House and how they want to help out Andrew Tate. I hope that all collapses and is not the case, because he's not a good dude, and frustrated about a lot of things today, I guess. I also want to talk about some policy rumblings about Trump allegedly going to say that food stamps have to be used for healthy food instead of junk food. So there's chat about that online, about people feel like that is the overreach of government. And you can make that argument, but is the government paying for the stuff with their money, So there's obviously some pros and cons to it. And there's also rumblings about Donald Trump being, gearing up to announce his IVF plans. And I'm not too fond of that. I'll talk about that and some other things as well. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteanews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteanews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream and run my site, all that good stuff you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can do super chats if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. But the best way to support is to go directly to the website. I do encourage you guys to also check out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com. We do have different shirts you guys can check out, like the goat hoodie, goat t-shirts. Goat is like greatest of all time. I saw that somebody did order that. I got that order, so thank you very much. We got other stuff, you guys. And someone did, that same person did request, because I saw their comment, they requested that I make another Trump mug. because I made this one for the fall for the pumpkin spice, and I did draw it. So I guess I'm open to suggestions for what other kind of chibi Trump mug that I should make and more Trump stuff. I do also have a t-shirt of the pumpkin spice, but I mean that is for the fall and into the winter. And I guess we're still in the winter, but we're at the beginning of the year. So, you know, I don't know. We'll have to think of something that's a cute little chibi one since it's in demand. And so I'll get on that. I encourage you guys to also check out my different books I've written. I have over 18 that are published, and I'm so excited, getting so much closer to my picture book that'll be out this year. And I'm behind on a lot of my novel writing, to be frank, but that I'm excited for the picture book. I do encourage you guys to check out some of my fiction books. I mostly write fiction, and there's a link in the description that'll take you to my Amazon page. I do thank you to those of you who do check out my stuff. I do have my books available for Amazon, the Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that subscription, you can read that. The only books that aren't available are my nonfiction books, but you guys can still buy it on paperback. You guys can still do ebook. And so I have The Color of God's Eye, Song on the Devil Lips. That's a historical fiction fantasy book. And Civil War meets X-Men. And of course, I have my nonfiction books, like Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So I encourage you guys to check that out. So cool announcement. Well, first of all, you guys know that I'm going, maybe you don't know, but if you watch me every day, I'm sure you do know by now, that I will not be streaming the rest of the week, because the rest of the week I will be down in DC. No, I guess not all. Well, I'm driving down there tomorrow. And Thursday, hopefully the weather isn't crazy and it's not like flash cancel or anything. But there's going to be an African American, Black History Month event at the White House on Thursday. It was supposed to be last week, but because of the snow, they rescheduled it. So I will be down there on Thursday, and I will be at a luncheon down in DC on Friday morning or afternoon or whatever. I think maybe it's a breakfast. I think it's a luncheon, but then the weekend will be over and I won't be able to stream with you guys. So today will be the last day of the week. So just, keep me in your prayers, safe travels and all that good stuff. I look forward to telling you guys how everything went and posting cool pictures. And maybe I'll actually be able to talk to the president this time. We've been in such close proximity. I've sung songs. And, I did think about like, doing like a campaign online to be able to sing, like pitch it, like I'm going to the White House, let me sing Lift Every Voice, and like tag people in the White House, and tag Trump, like so I can sing it and see how that went. And I'm like, it would be just my luck though to get sick that week. And lo and behold, I did definitely catch a cold. So it's fine that I didn't do that. I would have powered through it, or I guess one way or another, but you never know how bad your cold is gonna be. And it's not the most awful. I still sang this weekend in church, but I definitely didn't lead any songs. But we had a rough moment in our live yesterday. So anyway, I will not be here tomorrow. I will be at the White House. So also another interesting thing, I did reach out to Abolitionist Rising to possibly get Russell, who's in charge, or the head, who's usually the guy doing the man on the street videos and debating different people and doing presentations. So there's a lot of conversations about abortion, and is the pro-life way the route to go, or the abolitionist route the way to go. And I wanted to talk to Russell because I wanted to ask him just about some objections that people have. So I if you watch me for a while, you know that I lean more abolitionist. And I guess that was like my natural inclination. Not I guess, that was my more natural inclination. And um I I guess I was convinced otherwise, or not totally convinced, but I was kind of societally told that to change my beliefs, I guess, and I was influenced a bit. and and then started thinking about it some more. It never really sat right, and then I was introduced to some more of that content, and I've been exploring that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the abolitionist position to me makes a lot more sense. But there are some things about the methods and the movement and some of the people that you might meet online that just kind of grate people the wrong kind of way. So I wanted to ask some questions and treat the position as fairly as possible, because a lot of these guys don't get the opportunity to really have fair shakes with a lot of pro-life activists, because they, I guess, don't really want to platform them and give them the chance to, I don't know, persuade, or they just want to make it sound like they're extremist and just leave it at that. And I don't think that's fair in the route to go. So Kristen Hawkins, who is the president of Students for Life, has been railing for days. She's still on the subject, um, on abolitionists, and is bringing up a lot of scriptures and just doing a terrible job trying to tie the scriptures back to affirming her position. So just to back up a little bit, the biggest contention, there's a couple differences, but the two biggest contentions is that they they both believe in equal protection for the preborn. So they have a right to life. You can't unalive the preborn. But um the pro-life person, usually by most organizations agree, that they want to focus persecution, or prosecution rather, on the doctors and the traffickers of the abortion pills and stuff. They don't believe that the women who have the abortions are actually they don't believe they should be held criminally liable for what they've done. They say that they are victims of society. They don't meet the proper mens rea to really be held accountable for their actions. But an abortion doctor, yeah, they know the anatomy, they know all that stuff. So yeah, you can come after them, but not the woman. And the abolitionist says, if it's illegal and you commit the crime, anyone who commits the crime, like the dad who helps to pay for it and procure the abortion, or the woman who goes and gets it, like if you assist in the taking of the life, then you are culpable for the taking of that life. So it's equal protection, but also equal justice. And so there's that argument between them. And then there's also the incrementalism. So about abolitionists are like, yeah, you introduce the bill to abolish abortion. You don't do 15-week bills and 6-week bills or whatever, because you're still saying that there's an allowance of lives that can be killed. That's not right. They all deserve protection at conception, because that's a life. And you can't just introduce evil laws, and that would be an evil law. And so just abolish abortion. And the pro-life person is like, we have to strategically save as many babies as possible. If we can only save them up to 15 weeks, or if we do 6-week bills, that's still going to save like a majority of the babies. And that's, we'll take the win where it can, even though we want the ultimate goal is to make sure that there's no abortions. So hey Alex, hey everybody in the chat, hey everybody. So there's the plank, I guess, that originally made me question the most was probably the incrementalism. But the Abolitionist Rising has a lecture on slavery and William Wilberforce, and how incrementalism actually stalled the abolition of slavery. And once I saw that and a lot of parallels today, I'm like, okay, that their position does make a lot of sense. And but I think the thing that does still get me is that their lack of support for anyone who wants to, who isn't an abolitionist. And I can understand that. And I definitely understood them not wanting to support Trump, because he had some I would say, pro-choice views. And if you watched me throughout the election cycle, you know that I was upset about a lot of different things, and ultimately came to the conclusion that, Kamala Harris is still worse, and is gonna be and is like, and I phrase it this way, that he needs to be rebuked, and he needs to change his mind on stuff. Kamala Harris and her ideology, they need to be defeated, like soundly defeated. So so that was kind of my contingent where I landed. But I can understand their rebuke and be like, no, if we reward his bad behavior, they'll just know that they don't need, the pro-life position or abolitionist or whatever to win. And that's not a good thing. I'm so sorry. I have a tickle in my throat and I do not want to start coughing for you guys. And I feel it coming. I'm really trying to fight it. But if like Ron DeSantis was running against Kamala Harris, they still wouldn't support like Ron, I think. So that's where I'm a little give me 1 second, guys. Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying to power through this. I think it's just the lot of talking, because I've coughed a little bit, but it just kind of builds up. I'm so sorry. Hopefully I'll be all better by the time you see me on Monday. So anyway, I have questions, but I was really glad that they still went out and helped to defeat the I think it was Amendment 4 in Florida, if that was the abortion one. But the abortion amendment, whatever it was in Florida. And even though they don't like pro, life heartbeat bills or whatever, they still went out there to defeat something that was worse. So I guess I want to push how far they'd be willing to go. Because I saw somebody in a thread today who I'm mutuals with on TikTok, and they're a very fierce debater, and they do believe in the criminalization of abortion for anyone who commits abortion, but they don't like the abolitionists, because they're like, so she said so many people in this thread are calling themselves abolitionists, but the abolitionists wouldn't consider them to be abolitionists, because if there was a heartbeat bill that the president could sign, they still wouldn't want it to be signed, because it isn't a full total abolitionist ban. And so I don't think that's something that abolitionists should advocate particularly for. But I guess I do want to ask the question, like, if the Congress got together and by some miraculous sort of way, they're like, okay, we're going to do a national heartbeat ban, and it lands on the president's desk, and you are an abolitionist president, and it's your signature that could outlaw all these abortions, would you sign that bill? I'm curious what Russell would say. So I mean, I guess he would probably still say that he would, but I don't know. It'll be an interesting conversation. So anyway, I reached out to them, and so we're gonna try to set something up, and obviously won't be this week, but hopefully next week. 1 second. So yeah, it should be good. Who said who's old? I'm reading the comments like, you're old. I don't know if it's me. I feel like I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting there myself. I'm almost at my 20-year reunion for high school. I'm almost at my 20-year reunion. It's pretty crazy. So anyway, I'll keep you up to date with interesting things that are on the horizon. So let's chit chat a bit about this particular Democrat operative who has decided to trash talk the Democrat Party nonstop since the election. Now, her name is Lindy Li, and she's been interviewed by Glenn Beck. She's been on Piers Morgan, I think, a couple times, with which Piers Morgan will bring on like anybody. It's like a political free for all. I don't know who watches it live, but a lot of people certainly do watch the clips circulate on TikTok, and maybe that's enough. The like the YouTube engagement and stuff. She's been on Sean Ryan's show. She's been on Benny Johnson's show, Fox News a couple times. Dinesh, his show, just a lot of places. And she's been talking about how much they fundraise and how they mismanage the money. And everybody can talk about that because it's just like stupid what they did. But she was on their side literally up until the day. And I don't mind people switching sides and switching ideology, but I want to understand why. I need to understand why. And just because you lose and you're on the winning team, I guess it could be a reason. Like maybe you're like, oh, society sees it one way, so maybe I need to reanalyze my life and do some introspection. You know, that's that's I guess a bit reasonable, but you should just like throw all your good sense away. And I just wonder why so many people on the right aren't a little more guarded with people like this. I don't understand. Like there's a Billy Graham. I'm not Billy. Franklin Graham had retweeted this thing from Fox. It's the religion. It's their God. Okay? It's the religion. It's their God. Woke is their God. This trans woke insanity. They are enthralled by it. That's what Lindy Li said. And Fox News did a little quote of it. And so, and Lindy Li, she retweeted and said, the Democrat Party has been hijacked by woke and DEI extremists. Gender confusion has become a social contagion. The progressive mob calls you a bigot if you don't want biological men and women's sports. This is one of the many reasons why I left the party. Is it like if Kamala Harris was the president right now, would she have left the Democrat Party? Because it would have just got worse with all this stuff. And it's not new that they were woke. It's not new that they were pushing DEI. And it's not new that they were pushing radical gender ideology. It's not new. It was very prominent. Trump was running those ads, but the flip didn't happen until after the election. It didn't happen until after the election. So I asked the question, why are so many people on the right just so, oh yeah, let's just open arms this thing right now and just platform her. She can come over. That's fine. But why platform? Like I think like they put her on the inaugural committee or something. Like like the Trump campaign and stuff was ready to like uplift her, and so were all these people within the, Trump kind of media sphere. So Franklin Graham tweeted, Lindy Li, who raised millions of dollars from the Democrat Party, has announced that she's leaving the party. She's not going to worship the God of the woke. Now I like Reverend Graham, fine enough, but the God of the woke, like I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Okay. I guess it might sound nice on a right-wing t-shirt. But here's an old tweet. Since Mr. Graham wants to talk about Lindy Li here, Christians have become the most dangerous sect in the nation. A coalition of evangelicals and pro-forced birth Catholics gave us Trump. They stacked the judiciary and SCOTUS with billionaire-funded right-wing nut jobs. They can never rightfully claim the mantle of Jesus Christ. That's what she used to believe in. That's what she used to push. Like 2 seconds ago. I don't mind people changing. And Dinesh was like, well, people change. And I got his tweet too. I like welcoming new people to our side. Posting their old clips proving they were on the other side doesn't prove their change of heart isn't genuine. Alcoholics become Taylor's atheists become Christians. Why not give a Lindsay a chance? I mean, Lindy a chance to prove herself. Um, she was trashing Trump like right before the election and praising Kamala Harris. And if Trump didn't win, what makes you think that she would have decided to be on the outside looking and saying, you know what, they won everything, but I'm going to just abandon the victors and start complaining about them and how they spent their money and how they're all what? Do you think that would have happened? Do you think that would have happened? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's fine if you're going to transform. That's fine, but I want to know the reason. Like JD Vance, I talk about this a lot. He said a lot of negative things about Donald Trump. And I'm like, they're going to use this. They're going to use this. And they did. And they brought it up in interviews. And you know what? JD Vance had a good reason, a good explanation for his shift. Now, you can say most of the shift reasons is because he wants to be vice president. Sure, maybe. But his actual explanation was plausible. I was misinformed because I listened to the mainstream media and the lies that they told about Donald Trump. And then I did my own research. And you know what? That is actually a pretty familiar story for a lot of people. They actually started looking at the facts and beyond what the media was saying. So that's believable. Kamala Harris, her aide saying that she no longer wanted to support getting rid of fracking and all this different stuff. There was no real evidence to support that. And they would say things like, well, she hasn't banned fracking. Well, she's not the president. She's never been the president. So what does that mean? Like, I haven't done it yet. You can't do it. It was nonsensical. So all the times when she talked about running for president before, that she wanted to ban fracking, that she didn't want to build a wall, that that it was that she would defund any kind of building a wall, that she would deport people, and all this stuff that she said before when she was running for president, and all the anti-gun stuff that she was saying before she was, when she ran for president in 2020. In 2020, we were supposed to just throw that out the window. Just totally throw it out the window. That didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. And you know what? She didn't really make those claims. Other people made those claims for her because she knows the truth, that they were going to go in there and be super radical. I don't mind people change. I love people changing. I love redemption and forgiveness and all that stuff. I like that. I do. But people want to take advantage of you. People want to take advantage of you. And these, I don't know. Why is Fox doing this? or I understand Piers Morgan. He wants the drama because the drama equals views. And maybe that's the case for everybody. But I don't understand some of these right-wing people who I guess also want clicks and views, but don't they care about the conservative movement, the Republican Party, and Trump and all those folks enough to not allow leeches in that are going to undermine everything if they can? I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, Speaker Pelosi says President Biden should have gotten out of the race and that there should have been a contested primary, and that the VP Harris she won would have been a stronger candidate because of such a rigorous process. Hindsight is 2020. So that was something from the 11th. So that was right after the election. And found this pic of me at our next POTUS at the White House in the Rose Garden and doing blue still. So, she's there. And this was in September. Vice President Kamala Harris is absolutely on fire. I got to hang out with the VP and Tim Walz backstage. And I'm telling you now, they are the real deal. And I'm absolutely stoked and ready to work like heck with y'all to save our country. Are you in? Those were the posts that she had not too long ago. So what are these folks doing? What are these folks doing? And she went on Piers Morgan's show and he asked her, like, who did she vote for? And she didn't want to say, even though she had posted it, that she already voted for Kamala Harris. So that's what she said in October, which y'all know I don't love early voting anyway, but
So out of interest, who did you vote for in the election?
In 2024?
Yeah.
I voted for one person. I actually ignored everybody else on the ballot.
Well, who did you vote for?
Because I couldn't bring myself to vote for the Democrats. I was so disgusted.
So you voted Trump?
Can I plead the fifth?
No.
I will just say that. Let me just say one thing. I was so disgusted with the Democratic. What did you say?
Who did you vote for?
I will say that I voted for one person on the ballot.
Yeah, who?
Because I was so disgusted with the Democrats, I couldn't vote
I hate
for.
You, but who? Who did you vote for?
Do I have to answer?
Yes. It's uncensored. Come on, spit it out.
See, I can't win with this because I raised
to be honest, I mean, if you're honest, you win, right? I mean, that's.
Well, no, well, my donors and all the Democrats will accuse me of sabotage if I.
Come on, Lindy, who did you vote for?
I voted for Bob Casey. I didn't vote for president.
So, what's this? Because she publicly said that she voted for Kamala Harris in October. And then she went up Piers Morgan. And she can't say that she voted for Trump because everybody knows she did vote for Trump, and she just flipped. And she's been railing against Democrats and how terrible they are and how corrupt they are, and is claiming she was so disgusted with them that she couldn't vote for anybody. Which seems really wild to me. If you're a Democrat operative or just someone really into politics anyway, you know how important your local elections are, or you ought to know. It's not just federal stuff that affects you every day. So you're not going to vote for your sheriff. You're not going to vote for your school board. You're not going to vote for your congressional people. Nobody. You vote for one person after you've been blowing smoke up Kamala Harris's butt for all that time. I mean, and it's not like it's hard to find this stuff, but they don't care. They just put her on. Like, I mean, here's a doozy. Can we please stop using euphemisms to describe Trump's crimes? He raped E.J. and Carroll, and it wasn't just abuse. He terrorized our capital, and it wasn't just a riot. He committed treason by colluding with Russia. It wasn't just a mistake. Stop whitewashing the crimes of this rapist thug. That's what she said. And that was January of last year. People could change their minds, sure. But right after the election, immediately she started saying this stuff, and other Democrats started calling her out, saying, you are grifting, and then she would just go off on them. Like, how dare you say this? Democrats did this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but they have a point. They have a point. So, even if she is genuine, and because I've seen people switch sides from becoming, they were a Democrat, they decided to become a Republican or whatever, or an independent or whatever. And one of the most fascinating conversion stories that I heard online, this person was talking about how she was really frustrated by the Democrats always insisting that they were all racist, and how she always felt like she had to just keep admitting that she was racist. She's like, but I know I'm not racist. And this was like a little after the era of, BLM 2020, George Floyd kind of stuff. So they were like demanding everybody who was white admit that they're racist, admit their white guilt. And if you didn't, then that's wrong. And you're extra bad because it's not enough to just not be racist, you have to be anti-racist and all that drama. So I thought that was humorous and funny, but so there's people who feel pressured to say typical jargon, or they're, gonna be flayed or whatever. They're going to be destroyed and tortured, as far as their career and whatnot, outcasted. So maybe this is all virtue signaling, and all the stuff that she said in public and all the things that she did in public and all the money that she raised didn't mean anything. Ultimately they lost. Good on that. But what if they didn't lose? But let's say it is a conversion. take a seat and shut up and just sit for the ride for a little bit. Like, you could spill a little tea, but everybody platforming this person and giving them too much clout and opportunities and maybe money, and it's just not good for the movement. Not at all. Like, there's this YouTuber, I'm not familiar with them, but I've seen people talk about it online, because they became a Christian a few years ago, and they decided that they were going to deconstruct and they're no longer a Christian. And so a friend of mine was talking about, and he didn't follow the person that much, but he saw a couple different things. He talked about how he was a YouTuber. He was like a cartoonist or something. And then he decided to become a Christian, and people were like platforming him, and he was teaching stuff like way too fast. And there's an issue with some of these people who convert, and then it's like all of a sudden they're like instantly teaching, and they don't even know really the virtues that they're really espousing, like the baseline stuff. But at the same time, when you hear people deconstructing the reasons why he gave for leaving the faith, it seemed like it was really simple, like Sunday school lesson kind of stuff that you should have learned. And these little things that they're complaining about shouldn't be the reason why you're deciding to just leave the entire religion. Like, well, I had things that I wanted God to answer and God didn't answer and do X, Y, and Z for me. Well, God is sovereign. He doesn't always answer all the things that we want to answer in the way that we want to be answered. But that's just canon Bible stuff like that. We know that's not a reason to leave the faith. Either it's true or it's not true. So but there were some people who said, I'm not surprised to see this coming, because too many times when famous people, they say, hey, I converted, all of a sudden they're out in front instead of being discipled by someone else who knows more, and really taking the time before they meet all this public pressure of being the guy who's known as the Christian that's going all these podcasts and saying all this stuff. And then all these people who've now followed this person and is looking to them because they've been hoisted up as if they're some kind of thought leader, and now they've deconstructed. It's like, what do you do? What do those people do? Are they impacted? Are they negatively impacted in their faith and their stance? Especially if they were not learning the fullness of the gospel from someone who was, someone who I guess had amateur kind of level thinking. So, I think if you do convert, I think, you are entitled and should tell your testimony like ASAP. I just, I'm always concerned about how quickly people are like thrusted into the spotlight in a way that they're not able to handle it, especially with limited knowledge. So when it comes to all this conservatism stuff, or maybe not even conservatism, people switching on the right, they could, I mean, her expertise is Democrats. She knows what they've been saying. She knows what they've been doing. But going around talking about how, the Democrats are woke. They're obsessed with being woke. We know that. That's why we're not Democrats. We all know that. Like, you could spill some tea about the fundraising. Like, there's another person who I played her video, and she came out and decided to leave the Democrats before the results of the election. And I can't remember her name. I did invite her on. She became friends with me on TikTok, but she didn't respond to set something up. So I don't know what happened with that. But she did a video after the Democrat Party convention, and she just was disillusioned, according to her testimony about this stuff, with the different speeches that they gave. And she just felt like they were not speaking to the needs from the common everyday American people, and that they were just so out of touch. So then, she decided to start criticizing, and she started saying some things about the donors and the processes that, just from me being involved, that I knew to be true, knew to be the case. So I can't say with 100% certainty that her conversion or disillusionment is 100% honest, but I do know some of the things and stuff that she was saying was accurate from her end, because I just know from the opposite, and there were just things that were just true that I could verify. But she at least did that prior to the election being over. Like there was a chance that Trump could lose and she'd be out, on the outs from the people that she did all this work with, even though she's on the winning team. So she had some skin in the game, when she decided to make the move. And so I don't think by any means that she's a conservative. And a lot of these people who leave the left, that doesn't mean that they're a conservative. And I just want to caution people to remember that. Like, think about people who leave California because it's too crazy there, or they leave New York because it's too crazy, that the crime is terrible, they won't prosecute people, there's homeless people on the street, and you can't like leave your kids out because there's needles and all kinds of different stuff. They won't, prosecute people for stealing stuff, and just all kinds of reasons that you might want to get out of California or New York or whatever, these liberal hellholes. Okay. And then you go to Texas, some conservative spot in Texas, or you go to Florida. And what happens if everyone who just left those places didn't appreciate what was good about being in a red state and the ideology that has led to those being good, prosperous places? What if they just decided to continuously bringing over their liberal ideology, and they make the red place that they escaped to purple, and then they make it blue, and then all of a sudden Texas becomes a new California, and Florida, becomes a new California? What would happen? That's obviously not a good thing. If you leave those places, you need to reflect and say, why am I fleeing this place? Maybe the ideologies that I accepted and I believed were wrong. Like Anna from the Young Turks is reflecting a lot. I think we're watching it in real time, where she used to be very adversarial, anti-Trumpers and stuff. And she met a neighbor that was pretty nice, who was a Trump voter. And she's like, oh my gosh, they're not all idiots. They're not all terrible. This guy is actually pretty nice. And she got to see the tragedy of the woke crime policies. And as she started to become a victim herself. And when she decided to speak out on it, people on her side of the aisle started to criticize her. So she's starting to have a transformation, and even them talking about, oh, maybe Kamala Harris will go back to California and be the governor. And she's like, oh no, like she thinks that's a bad thing. So I'm not saying that she's going to be a right-wing conservative anytime soon. Maybe, I don't know. But you can see like the wheels turning and transformation happening in real time, and her realizing that the different policies are bad. You could talk about how the Democrats are bad in general, but what about the actual policies that separate them and separate folks on the right? You have to be more than just opposing the side when you're in a party. It's more than just opposing someone. You have to stand for something. So saying that the Democrats suck and expecting the right to just eat you up, that's not good enough. And we shouldn't accept that as just being good enough. Too much of our rhetoric is just opposite of them. But what do you actually stand for? What do you actually stand for? Yesterday, I mentioned Elon Musk and the Ashley St. Clair drama, and how she became like his fourth baby daddy. I don't even know if he like publicly acknowledged it himself, but it's according to her. And people were congratulating her. There's a big conversation because some people were like, are you guys promoting baby mama culture? And CJ Pearson was like, well, this is different than, someone getting with like a brokey and, baby mama culture, and because he's wealthy and stuff. And people responded, that's not good enough. Just fathers provide more than just money. It's not good to have to be split and have like 13 kids among 4 different households, and that's just not something that we should be promoting as a culture and as conservatives and stuff. That's not like a right-wing position, especially when you've trash talked baby mama culture in the Black community. It's not consistent. So You can't just shift your views because someone you like did something. You know, you can't just shift your views because someone popular with power did something. Like your values have to be your values and they have to be consistent. And people might be saying like, "Oh, you right wingers, you're prude. Oh, you right wingers are, so rigid." Well, we are supposed to be rigid because we are conservatives. We're supposed to conserve certain values because we think and we believe those values are good for society. If we just abandon them, I guess we're not who we are. But we can't just be in it to own the libs. So all these people coming in over to the right, when are we going to have conversations about like, oh, it's not just cool for you to be here, but no, this is what we believe. And this is why that side actually sucks. And this is why you should conform to our opinions and our worldviews. It's not just about the tent being so big that everybody comes in and can have a different view. Like there has to be some overlapping things that bind us together. And I think it has to be more than just tax cuts that expire every couple of years. I think it has to be more than that. So I just really urge people to be defensive about who they allow to really be platformed in their party. And yesterday I mentioned that there was a person on X called a Patriarchy Hannah who was like a trad con page on X, had a lot of followers, and they weren't real. Everything that she posted or whatever about her life was a lie, and she would attack other people like Allie Beth Stuckey, pretend like she was too feminist, and everything that she was presenting wasn't true. And there are people who looked up to this account and are really hurt because what they believed in wasn't real. It was fake. And I just really hate to see it. I really hate to see it. But you have to have your values rooted in something beyond just like personalities, for sure. For sure. But just I don't understand the right and their desperation to just let anybody in. It just like I don't understand their desperation to make friends with Andrew Tate. It's getting around that the Trump administration is trying to like pressure Romania to let off on some of the criminal trials and stuff, or on Andrew Tate and his brother. And I don't understand. Like we talked about his lawyer who went on Benny Johnson's show, and that got a lot of backlash with Benny because they're like, this man has been accused of some terrible things, but even if the criminal stuff that he's been accused of isn't true, he's still someone who got famous off of running a cab girl business. I talked to somebody about that like last week who's pretty on the up and up as far as pop culture and stuff, and she did not know that was how Andrew Tate got really rich. I'm like, I wonder how many people don't know that he is a scumbag. And people saying, oh, well, he was just attacked by, the system and he's really innocent, just like Trump is innocent. Stop. You defend your boss. Go out there and defend your boss. Don't defend this guy. You don't know the details of the case. I don't know who told you to do that, but it's not a good thing. You should not be like, they're just the same. They've been, the Matrix has come after them both. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You defend your boss, Trump. Don't associate Trump with this guy who is on camera. There's so much video about him talking about his scam business. So please, on the right, please gatekeep your stuff a little bit better than what we've been doing. And I suppose that is my main contention for today. But I also want to talk about Donald Trump and some announcements about the food stamp program. So allegedly, he's going to be announcing that they want food stamps to go toward healthy things and not toward like junk food. And some people are like, that seems like a no-brainer. That's always seemed like a no-brainer. And I've known people who like said that kind of stuff for years. There's some people who are, I saw a TikTok today, was kind of asking like, is this too much government interference about what people can buy and not buy? And the thing about accepting government funds and government money is that it always comes with government strings attached. And it seems like a really weird argument to be like, oh, this is government trying to control what you can eat. It's like, okay, but you're using the government's money. I mean, you can say it's everybody's money because they confiscated or whatever, but it is government money. So just always remember that government strings, a government money always comes with government strings. So if you're in a position where that you need the government to give you that money to feed yourself and to feed your family, they are going to be able to have the power to dictate what it is that you can buy with that money. And that's another reason why you should be, you know, careful about how you hook up your kids to the education system with the government, because they have a say in how your kids are educated, right? And also the healthcare. It government money, government strings. It's just a warning. I'm not against programs that help the needy, but it's just a warning. It's just a warning. But what's interesting about it, though, is that I know these companies, these junk food companies, and Pop particularly, has lobbied the government to be able to have food stamps pay for that kind of stuff. Some time ago, it might have been a year or so ago, we went through a story about how a mainstream like companies or whatever would lobby to get their own studies done to be able to say, hey, you know, this is a good way for drinking pop and stuff. It's a good way for kids to be able to get calories when they need their calories. And if you're not for them getting these calories, it's because you hate poor people. And there was all this kind of framing with the lobbyists and stuff if you don't allow food stamps to pay for this stuff. And the one reason why they want food stamps to pay for this stuff, or government money to pay for different stuff, is that that's how you help legitimize it, one, and you're always going to have that available source of income to feed into that business, like abortion and stuff. They want government funds to be able to pay for abortions and cover stuff with Planned Parenthood and so on, because they want access to those dollars to make sure it legitimizes it, and also make sure there's that revenue coming in. You know, they print it up, you get your card, you go pay for it, you know, money in Coca-Cola's bank account or whatever. So there, I wonder what the lobbying is going to be, or the consequences are going to be with some of these big companies, Frito-Lay and Coca-Cola. Like, what's going to be the repercussions of trying to cut off this huge chunk of money from these companies? That's my big question, because you talk about messing up a lot of people's money. So I wonder how that's gonna go. Another thing that's interesting to me is if the argument is that, oh, Trump loves junk food and other stuff himself. He definitely loves a Diet Coke. If RFK is like, we need to use the food stamps to pay for healthy food because we want to make America healthy again, and that's the route we want to go, would take care of the families, help everybody. But my issue that I'll keep repeating with him, I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but in my mind, I keep hearing him say that a woman should be able to have a 9th month abortion if that's what she wants, because it's her body, her choice. The government shouldn't be involved. And you're out here obsessed with, we got to make sure that the families aren't buying hot Cheetos with the government money. Like, that these things don't go together in my mind. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think it makes a lot of sense at all. So we'll see where that goes, because I think there's not much you could do, I think, to really hurt Trump. I mean, you could get in the way of maybe some of his policy agenda that maybe will hurt his legacy. But the best thing I guess they could do to hurt him would be to hurt Republicans and to really go in and fund their competitors and so on and go lobby in other places. But just they messing with people's money. I don't think people are going to just sit back and let it happen. I have seen some people really upset because they don't want to tell their kids that they won't be able to buy X, Y, and Z with this stuff. But again, government money comes with government strings, and that's always how it's going to be. Another thing that is rumored to be coming up is Donald Trump. His plan to fund IVF. That was a campaign promise. And I know I'm not feeling it. I didn't want that to happen before. And I know that is a controversial issue for a lot of different people because a lot of people have used IVF. There's some moral implications and ramifications with using IVF, but let's put that aside because I'm almost at an hour. So I don't want to go over too long today and risk another little coughing fit. But thinking about it just from this perspective, IVF is very expensive. That's one of the reasons why they want to help pay for it, because it's very expensive. And their philosophy is like, oh, we want to be like a pro-life party where we just want to make sure that there's more life and babies are good and it's good to help people make babies. That's a good. So we're gonna help pay for it or make the insurance companies pay for it and just make sure it's available for people. It's very, very expensive with, and for the success rate, it's very, very expensive. And if they use government money to pay for it or whatever, more people will obviously do it. And that is going to be a big bill on behalf of the American taxpayer. Now, if they want to cut costs, they're cutting costs everywhere else with Doge and so on, gutting the Department of Education. And to be like, oh, yeah, but we're going to pay for IVF. The entitlement programs, you can't get around the fact that the entitlement programs is where the most of the money is coming from, but that's where people don't want to cut. So they're finding, USAID to cut there, and they're cutting stuff in moving money around Department of Education and so on. But the big chunk of the money is entitlements. And so if you're saying you're gonna add this extra expense, just seems really wild to me in an age of we've already spent too much money. We need to cut more. I'm glad they're making cuts, but that is a really big expense. If the route is to make the insurance companies pay for it, that is a really big bill to just make people have to pay as well. And that's going to make everyone else's insurance go up. But if the goal is to just pay for it because it's a good thing to do, it's a good thing to make more children, bring more children to the world, which I think that's true. I just don't necessarily believe that by any means necessary, bringing a child into the world is necessarily good. Children are a blessing from God. They're made in the image of God. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all ways in which we bring them into the world is moral, right? It's something that should be uplifted. But if we should just do it because it's good, then why? There's other things that we could be paying for just because it's good. Like if you break your bones, isn't it good that you're mended? If you have cancer, isn't it good that that's taken care of and it's eradicated and you get treatment? If you have diabetes, isn't it good that you're able to get your insulin? If you need an inhaler, is it good that you're able to get that medication? Like I know somebody who has a very good job and they needed heart medication and their heart medication was so expensive, and even with their insurance, they were paying like hundreds of dollars, a month for these pills to help keep them alive. So there's lots of things that it would be good if we just paid for them for people all the time. So if you're going to go the extra mile and say that we ought to pay for IVF just because it is good to create children, I guess I'm asking, why isn't it good to just pay for all healthcare and do universal healthcare? Now that might be throwing you for a loop, because you probably like, Christina, I've never heard you advocate that you're for universal healthcare. I'm not saying I am. I just don't see the logic in not going the full. If you're going to say it's just good to do it, therefore we should pay for it. There's a lot of things people could say, it's just good, therefore we should pay for it. Because you're talking about bringing people into the world and spending all this money to try to bring people into the world. And at the same time, you're also unaliving a lot of people, because they have to make a lot of embryos that some of them, get destroyed, discarded, or like indefinitely frozen. Some are donated to science. There's just a lot of different things that are very gray in that process. But what about, you always hear pro-choicers say, like, why don't you care about the people who are already here? There's a lot of people here who do need help financially and physically. And you could be spending those dollars on them. Is it not good to help them? If it's good, therefore we should pay for it. How are you going to argue against the people who believe in universal healthcare? And the arguments against that would be like, well, just because one, it's really expensive, it's not free, somebody has to pay for it, so it's going to be expensive, burden on all the taxpayers. And just because you expand the coverage doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a quality coverage. So there's all these, reasons to consider it not being a good thing. But you're going to run into those same problems, I think, if you expanded on IVF. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And I understand that they think it's a sweet campaign promise. Trump just learned about IVF like 2 seconds ago, I think, because like after the Alabama Supreme Court case, which we touched on that, and people were freaking out like, oh my gosh, they're going to cancel IVF. Katie Britt got a lot of phone calls and stuff, and she reached out to Trump and talked about IVF. And so her and Ted Cruz were trying to protect IVF in the Senate and stuff. And they had all these senators sign on to like, we want to protect IVF. And they did try to pass a bill. Democrats tried to, pass a bill about IVF. And Republicans wouldn't support it because it had too many provisions in it that they didn't like. But if you get something passed that does protect IVF or legitimizes it with government funds, as I brought up in the last kind of segment or conversation, what you're going to probably end up doing is write into the law that parents have the right to destroy their offspring and to donate them to science and all the kinds of different things that are usually associated with IVF. So I don't want that to be some kind of federal decree. I don't. And there's just a lot of issues with it. So I was hoping that this was going to be like a year 2 kind of conversation or year 3 kind of conversation. It's not something that I really want my taxpayer dollars to go to. And to me, it would make more sense if they want to be like, we're the pro-life party, so we're gonna fund life, and we're to be like, okay, we're gonna make sure that we do more coverage when people go to the hospital and have a baby. I know somebody who had a high-risk pregnancy, and I guess this was a local government, like the state government, that messed up, but they misread the paperwork wrong, and they thought that the father made too much money, and all of a sudden they didn't have coverage. And they were high-risk pregnancy, like needed to go to like the doctor like weekly to make sure everything was okay. And all of a sudden, boom, didn't have insurance anymore, weren't covered. So I think there's other ways that we could care for families. Now, I have deep sympathy for people who struggle with infertility. There are other methods that besides IVF that people can seek out. So many people, I think, group IV, they hear fertility stuff and they automatically assume IVF, but there's other things that people pursue besides IVF that are I guess more ethical. but my heart goes out to the couples that struggle with that, but it is a big bill. It is a big bill, and I think there's some issues with it. So I understand Trump and other folks wanting to jump on that train, but to me, it fiscally certainly doesn't make sense. And I think he at least needs to learn more about it before they push legislation forward. Having a conversation with Katie Britt or two doesn't justify, like, hey, let's go ahead and write this into law. There's just a lot of stuff that people don't understand about it. So anyway, that's about all I got to say today before I start coughing my lungs out. So thank you for listening and bearing with me today. Again, I hope by Monday I'm all, good with my voice and stuff. You guys know I love to hold on to a cold, though. You guys know that I just love to do it for some reason. My body does, but I think we're into week 2 anyway, so maybe I'll be all good. I look forward to setting up this interview with Abolitionist Rising, and I'll try and get that done sooner than later. It won't be this week. But anyway, I will not be streaming the rest of the week because I'll be in DC. I'm not gonna do a long outro because I got a cough. So God bless you guys. I'll see you on Monday.